I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what's happening. You know, you go home 6 o'clock at night, everyone's watching the game or whatever. You're there, you know, did so-and-so pay? Do I have to worry about this? Did that get ordered? Did the equipment come in or parts or whatever? All that
Yeah,
bullshit.
those are the little things that nobody sees.
No, that's why, you know, running a dojo or running an academy like you, I was approached a couple of times and said, dude, no.
It's hard.
I know it's work.
You know, it's a lot of work, especially now because I'm getting close to the 100 student mark. So there's like, man, there's just so many different like personalities and
layers
just,
of personalities.
Oh my God, it's so draining.
Do you have kids? You have a lot of kids?
3.
3 children. I mean, not yourself, yeah, but I mean, as far as the classes.
Oh, almost 10.
10?
We just recently brought it back, and I have about 10 kids right now.
But you had stopped it before?
I had stopped it.
Why?
Because it was just so overwhelming. You know, like when I first got in, it was just me. Right now I have 2 assistants, right? But teaching kids, teaching adults, with a brand new business, trying to figure out marketing, trying to figure out how to structure the classes, running the billing, running everything.
Yeah,
and then
stuff you don't learn in
and
jiu-jitsu.
then now I got to deal with like other people's kids, and I'm just like, I can't. I was like, I need a break for a little bit.
Right.
When I'm a little more established and I can afford the help, I'll bring it back.
Yeah,
You know,
that makes sense.
because at that point I was like, okay, I feel like I'm not providing the service that I want to provide.
Yeah.
You know, now I feel like I'm just kind of like half-assing something.
Plus, it's pulling energy from you.
Yes.
And the other part of it.
100%.
Yeah. I guess we kind of got off on the side here. So, full name?
Full name or just first and last?
First and last. And if it's really fancy, you can do the whole thing.
So my full name is Felipe Carvalho Begali Rocha.
Okay.
But mostly Felipe Rocha.
And how old are you?
I'm 33.
33, and your birth date?
July 2nd, 1991.
Nice. And you are from originally?
Originally from Brazil, from Minas Gerais.
And how long were you in Brazil before you came here?
So I was in Brazil for 10 years, right? Then I moved to New York in like a little bit after 9/11.
Okay.
You
Wow.
know?
From Brazil to New York City?
To New York, yeah. So then, and I lived in New York from like early 2002. Yeah, actually January 13, 2002. That's when I arrived in New York. And then I moved to Houston beginning of March 2020, right before COVID.
Good timing.
Yeah. So then it's funny because when I showed up here, like not even a week later, everything closed down.
Oh, shit.
So it was pretty rough.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Shit. So, but you were still competing at that point?
I was. That was actually like my peak, like competitive years, right? I moved down here to teach jiu-jitsu. That was kind of like my last little attempt at like trying to make jiu-jitsu a career. Because I had tried a couple of times, but then it didn't necessarily work
In
out.
New York or here?
Yeah. It's really hard, you know? So people sometimes they see like the packed gyms and stuff like that. But jiu-jitsu culture itself, a lot of the older guys, they feel like because I had to struggle coming up, you have to struggle while you're coming up.
Right.
But they don't realize that like the struggle from back then to the struggle now is very different.
What's different about it?
Well, let's just say I've almost been homeless a couple of times. You know?
Yeah, well, before that ever happens again, call me. I got a home for you.
There was times where I had to debate between eating or putting gas in the car.
Wow, and that was here in Houston, or that was in New York?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Backed up on bills. It's just quite a bit, man. It was very stressful. you know, especially being that it's an amateur sport, there's not much money behind it, you know, especially when you're just coming up the ranks. So it's not uncommon for guys to work full time and then try to train full time. But people that work full time and try to train full time, they never really last because it's too much.
Yeah.
You know, it's just way too much. So then the guys that, for the most part, do end up making it, they just kind of can't. There's like no life, you know. You're gonna have to get by on like pretty much nothing. You know, it's gonna be a big struggle for many years until.
What changed though? I mean, you've done a lot better since you're not homeless.
Yeah. I just bought a house, so that's great.
Congratulations.
Thank you. The biggest change for me, it's kind of hard to say, right? But as far as like when I started making more money teaching before I opened up a gym, was when I started to market myself more on social media, right? I would try to...
Like Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, you know. I would post little videos here and there of like certain techniques, and I had to make sure I try to compete as much as possible and try to grow my audience in order to be able to get more exposure, thus being able to bring in a couple of sponsors because they knew that I had a larger following. So now they were willing to invest in me because that would also get their brand out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So then that helped me quite a bit. Not enough to where like I was living lavish, but I was not struggling as much anymore. You know, like I could eat and put gas in my car. That was great, you know? Then it also, since I was having huge success as far as the competition scenes went, I would also message different gyms to try to set up like different days to teach. Be like, hey, I can come by teach your gym like once a month, you know?
So a side gig in a way.
Yeah. I'll come by once a month. If you can have like at least, I don't know, like 20 students at $20 each person, you know, once a month. And then that way, like, you guys get a good instructor, right, who's being very successful in the competition scene right now. And they're also getting to learn at like a very discounted rate. Because normally when you attend a seminar, it's
They're
like
not cheap.
$100, $150, charging $20, you know? But then I would ask the owners of the gym, can you make sure there's at least 20 people?
That makes sense.
You know?
Otherwise it's not worth it.
Exactly. Because it sucks. $20 show up, there's 3 people, like $60. It's not much. Like I'm gonna put gas in my car for the week, you know?
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe that. So that was big for me when I was brown belt, right? That's when I kind of started to figure out what I could do to make money, you know? Another thing that I would do is like when sponsors would give me gear, I know it's very common, you want to try to keep it all, but I was a little more realistic with myself. I'm like, okay, what am I actually going to use? And whatever I wouldn't use, I would sell it. You know, I would sell it to other people. Then what else? I know I've done so much. It's kind of like hard to think back on everything especially because as of lately, I've been like so focused on the gym. But I know that teaching at the other gyms was like huge for me because I was able to find at least 3 different gyms that I would go to once a month. And out of those gyms, each of them, I would get anywhere between like $300 to $400 each. You know?
Okay.
So then that was like a nice little bump on the pay every month.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, per month. That was great. Then I started selling packages of privates as well. That was also good. And then once I got my black belt, I wanted more, because that's when my wife, she got pregnant. And then I had to just be realistic. I'm like, hey, I have to make a better income. And I see all these guys, like every gym that I work at, I am packing the mats, right? So I take a lot of pride in what I do. Like I believe I'm a really good instructor, And I'm like, if I can do this for someone else, I'm gonna do it for myself.
Yep.
And that's when I, started picking Drew's brain about.
Oh, you knew Drew at this point?
At this point, yeah. I met Drew when I was still a brown belt.
Okay.
I think. Yeah. I was either still a brown belt or I had just gotten my black belt.
Yeah.
It was like around that time. So then Drew knew like the situation that I was going through. So then I started picking his brain about some stuff. I almost ended up working for Travis.
Up there?
Yeah. But then the commute was just way too. It was just way too far.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to. We had kind of agreed on it. But then when I was like, man, like realistically, am I gonna be able to do this? Like, I don't like to give people my word on something
and not be able
to follow through with it. So then we found out we just kind of like, it was better that if I didn't, because I didn't want to burn that relationship with him either, So then that's when I decided to just do my own thing. And Drew had some mats from his original mats from these I got on Facebook Market. But so when he first opened up ACS, if you're to look at the old pictures, you're going to see these red kind of greenish those mats.
Oh, wow. That's like the one we had in Bay.
Like this thin, you know? And they would Velcro in together. So then I just matted out my garage and I just started advertising on social media and I started teaching out of my garage.
Nice.
And eventually it just got to the point to where I had almost like 30 people in my garage, a 2-car garage.
That's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people.
But it's a good sign, though.
Yeah. But it just got unsafe, and it was very unsafe. And then at most we could get was like 3 to 4 groups training at once. And even then, it was like super crowded, right? And the rounds, they were like super short.
Like 2 minutes?
Like 2-minute rounds, so that way we'd be constantly rotating between people, so you wouldn't be sitting out for too long. And then once I had a little over 30 students, that was when I started looking into opening up a bigger location.
Yeah.
Right? And this originally wasn't the spot that I was going to open up in.
I thought so. I thought I remembered something else. But
so then the original location that I had was in Pearland. And
okay, that's a bit more of a drive for you, though, wouldn't it? Or
no, from where I was living at that moment, going to Pearland was like 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. So then I had these 2 guys that I was going to partner with. And then came around time to sign the contract and close. I mean, I don't really know what their thought process was. So then when I told them, I was like, okay, we're going to close. Like, this is about how much I'm going to need to build out the gym. And I gave them the numbers. It's going to be at least like about 10 or 15 grand to get mats, fix everything.
All
and all
kinds
that.
of stuff.
Yeah. And then they were like, that's a lot. And I'm like, well, what were you guys thinking?
Yeah.
They're like, well, I have 2,000 I can give you. I was like, 2,000, dude.
That won't even get a mat.
That won't even get a mat, exactly. So then they ended up pulling out, and that was like the day that I was going to sign the lease.
Oh, shit.
So thank God I didn't sign the lease, because then I would have had this big problem in my hands.
How long was the lease? Like 2 years, 3 years?
It was 5. So then I would have had this lease in my name. Now I don't have the money to build a gym. What the heck am I going to do?
Yeah, it's not like you can train on concrete.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then thank God that happened right before I signed. And I just remember being super heartbroken, right? Because that didn't work out. So
when was this?
2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So then I got on it was a year ago. I have had the gym for 2 years, but I've been here for a little over a year. Yeah, so a little over a year ago.
So recent.
Yeah, fairly recent. So then I got onto Facebook Market the next day. And then I found them advertising this warehouse on Facebook Market. And I reached out to them, and it was a price I could afford, you know. And I just remember talking to my wife, and I said, hey, I have the student base, but literally everything that's coming in from the gym is going to go right back into the gym. Like, I'm not going to have a single dollar left.
Yeah, you reinvest in your own
know?
business.
So, because at that point, the way how we work together as a couple is I cover all of our bills, she saves.
That's a good relationship.
And that's how we manage stuff. So I was like, for a while, I'm not going to be able to pay the bills. Do you think that this is something that you would be able to take over until I can build the gym up to get to the point to where I can take it back, right? And, Claudia, man, she's a trooper. She's a real one, and she took over everything. She allowed me to just completely dial into the gym. And thankfully, we're very blessed with everything, and we're able to build it up to the point, like I said, to where we were able to get back to where we were plus more. And, I'm able to.
Now you have 100 students.
Yeah, I'm able to take care of my kids. I'm able to take care of her. We just recently bought a house. So it's been great.
That's awesome. That's a great. That's the American story almost.
Yeah,
I mean, you're an example of it. Yeah. Hey, I do want to go on a different track. So jiu-jitsu. That's kind of your starting point in terms of all this. What got you interested in MMA?
So when I was a kid, my grandmother was a huge boxing fan.
Really?
Right, my grandmother was huge into boxing.
So like George Foreman, Muhammad Ali, Shaver, the whole bunch.
Yeah, she was.
And back. So you were saying?
Yeah, so my grandmother was huge into boxing, and my mom, she was big into the MMA, and this was around the Pride times.
Really?
Yeah.
So that was in late 90s, early 2000s?
Yeah, like late 90s. So I watched like the Sakuraba, the Vanderlei Silva, Shogun, all that, like Minotauro, Fedor, as I was a little kid. And as a kid, you're like, man, this is really cool, right?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it was awesome to me. That was like peak MMA. Like, it was great. And so then I got into Capoeira when I was a kid. I did it for like...
Really?
Yeah, 2 years. I'm not that athletic or like mobile, so I kind of had a little bit of a struggle with Capoeira. Because like some of the attributes that I found was like needed for that sport, I didn't really have.
Yeah, Capoeira always struck me. Carlos that comes he's with Damien's group.
Carlos. Yes.
Yes, he's got that kind of Capoeira body.
Yeah.
Thin, lithe, kind of floaty, not floaty, but very, very, very flexible.
Yeah.
And
I'm very dense and just
heavy.
So that didn't work out too well for me.
They tried to show, I'll be a quick story. When we were at the Machados, they tried to get us to do Capoeira there, and we just looked so stupid. I mean, bad stupid. And then they tried to start a little soccer thing. Now, I will say, Jean-Jacques, he can kick a ball.
Really?
I don't know if no one knows that. I mean, everyone thinks of Jean-Jacques, as what he's like, but that guy was an athlete.
Yeah.
And he was a great soccer. I mean, I don't know if he played on a team, but we would have these soccer fields outside, and he could just dribble around you like Michael Jordan.
No way.
It's like, how come you aren't playing in like the Brazilian soccer league?
That's
because
awesome.
you're pretty good. And
Could have made some real money doing that.
yeah, right. That's enough. And they, like you, they worked out of their garage, and you talk about 5 brothers.
Yeah.
So let's see, it was Higgin, Carlos, John, Jean-Jacques, and Hadra. Hadra, you never saw him. He was
I was
there.
about to say, I never heard of Hodger.
Hadra is the youngest,
Yeah.
and he is the, he had a black belt. I mean, he had his black belt then.
Right.
But he went to class once in a great while, but it was always Higgin, Carlos, and Jean-Jacques. And John every so often, but I said, Hadra, you never, I knew him because I rolled with him a few times, but you don't hear about him at all, so I'm not sure.
I never knew he was a person until now.
Yeah, so
That's crazy. Keep in touch here and there or no?
What's that?
Do you guys have
Me and
still keep in touch?
Carlos, yes.
Yeah.
I saw Carlos, I mean, not like we text each other back and forth all the time, but I saw Carlos last summer and up in Waco, Texas.
Right.
And, I hadn't seen him in about 20 years. And when I saw him, but I can kind of, he had a certain way of walking and a certain talking and stuff like that. When I saw Carlos, last I remember, he looked like you. I mean, with the hair, smile, and he didn't have any facial hair, but he was just, hey, how you doing? This and that. When I saw him, bald. I mean, just bald. And I said, Carlos? And he goes, hey, top dog, how you doing? And we hug each other. And he goes, oh, my friend, we had a great time. Those were magical times back then. It was the beginning of, the enchanted era of jiu-jitsu, because it was.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have the original, probably their first ever interview, which is why I like doing interviews, with Carlos and Higgin. They had just watched one of our fights, one of our gatherings. And, we're, and they're just like, that looks crazy.
Right.
But we can help you on the ground. and it was Carlos. Carlos spoke English pretty well. Higgin, hardly at all. Nothing. It was just like, oh, yes, very interesting. And then, but Carlos says, yes, well, we can do this, and you can do this. You had to come into our garage, and we'll show you how to do this and that. Fast forward 2 years later, Higgin wants to do some stick fighting.
Yeah.
And I tell, we had this on tape too. And so Higgin goes, yes, I want to do it. And I said, all right, because he was competing for Abu Dhabi at that time too. I'm like, Higgin, no, because hands are like a target. Even with gloves on, you might get them broken. Or I don't want your brothers to get all pissed off at me because, hey, you fought with Eric and you broke your hand.
Yeah.
So, and I told Nico the same thing. He wanted to do stick fighting. I said, when you're done, MMA, we'll do knife. Up till then, we can do knife fighting, but stick fighting, I'll show you stick technique. I don't want you fighting. Something will break. It's just how it, my hands are a good example of one.
Right.
And so Higgin goes out there and I put a stick in his hand and he's just like you and me doing Capoeira, right?
Right.
It was just like that. And I go, and so I'm moving around. All right, Higgin, move your hand. And he kind of does this. And so I'm just tapping.
Right.
There's no way I'm going to just take a full shot. I'm just tapping. Higgin, move your hand. Higgin, move your hand. He goes, oh, like this. And so he goes, you mean like this? I said, yeah, that's fine. Perfect.
You're doing great.
You're doing great. And so we go back and forth. And so I said, all right, so now this is what I do, because I would close all the time with stick fighting, which is, the Filipino community hated that. But when we brought jiu-jitsu into stick fighting, it changed everything. And so I'm thinking, I'm going to close like I closed in on a Filipino. So I closed and then all of a sudden I could feel Higgins' energy just go from like, to like, and we're here and I could feel him just start to clamp like a vice. And he goes, okay to go? And I'm like, yeah, okay. And because I had a thrust to his stomach, but I just forget it. He just, bam, next thing my arm was up like this. The stick was twirling in the air. Like that. And I said, awesome. When you're done with Abu Dhabi, we'll do this. But
so now, after you guys introduced the jiu-jitsu to the stick fighting, did it kind of become a staple for like the top dog? For your... Pretty much. Yeah.
It extended my life, my stick fighting career by 5 years, easily.
Really?
Because I had always planned, more than that actually, I had always planned, because everything's getting hit. Even stick fighting, it's not like where you can pitch a no-hitter.
Right.
There's just no shutouts in stick fighting because you're going against. I mean, unless the guy's a total idiot, which sometimes. But then you're not. You're not going hard with that guy. You're trying to bring him up, just like you do here when you're trying to bring someone up. And so when I got basically at that time, I got my purple belt from Higgin, and but Carlos gave me my blue, and when I got my blue, we had a gathering, like that next weekend, and I was pretty good. I had a pretty good range. It's like a guy having a good jab and a good cross. I had that with the stick. And then I could just see, I can close here. I close here, and I'm there. I'm like, shit, this is easy. Boom, 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 and it was over.
Right.
And matches technically would go for 2 minutes. That's how long our matches are. But if I could end it under that, I save on wear and tear, just like a car. Save on wear and tear, and jiu-jitsu changed everything. Now, it really pissed off the Filipino community because they don't do grappling.
Right.
Everything with them, now to their credit, they say everything with them is a blade and a machete and stuff like that. I said, I agree, that's true. And sometimes we do practice with the knives in the ground. And you realize just how easy it is to get cut.
Yeah.
But with sticks, I mean, if you're not going to die. You'll get bones broken. You might get a concussion, but you're not going to die. And if you know how to close, just like in boxing or anything else, you know how to get in without getting your head knocked in, and you're better on the ground than that guy, guess what? You'll probably win.
Right.
And I knew that once I fought guys, we'd have people coming out with the Chinese chain, the quadruple section staff. I mean, just the most bizarre weapons that I've ever seen. And yes, I train with these all the time. It says, I sure hope you're good with them because you're not going to last 10 seconds once I get on you.
Yeah.
And they would do these big moves, and you just kind of like a rope, you just kind of tie it in. And jiu-jitsu made all the difference.
Yeah. Now, did you ever get to witness like one of those dojo challenges or like?
That Horian did.
Yeah, like did Machados ever have any
I did.
of those?
No, they had them there. I'd heard of them, but they never came to gatherings.
Yeah.
That wasn't really his thing. He would go to what Horian did, because I was there in Southern California when he was doing it. I didn't see it, but I just knew people who had been there were really pissed off.
Right.
He'd go in there, and it's mostly Japanese, because that's the most you had back then. And Korean, Taekwondo and Korea. And he would go in and just challenge these people, like, hey, who's your best fighter? And all these guys are like, we'll kill you or you'll die, like this. So, well, then give him one of our middle belts. And the thing, Horian illustrated this one thing I always told people when we're fighting, when we had the helmets on, the main reason I'd wear gloves, not to protect my hand from the stick, because if a good shot, it'll go through it. It's if you're on the ground and we have these fencing masks, if you ever hit a fencing mask with your fist, it's like a cheese grater. All your flesh will come off. That's the one that I'd wear very, very light gloves.
Yeah.
But I just didn't want my hand to get chewed up. Well, one of the things my Filipino instructor says, when you have someone on the ground, you don't hit him with a fist. If you're bare-fisted, you slap him, and or the palm.
Right.
And
that's rooting.
Yeah. And he would do this, and my instructor, he had the slap that, and I've never seen anything like it, where, the focus gloves, you know, when people are punching, he could slap your hand, and I'd have to hold it for him sometimes so hard, after 2 or 3, everything is swollen and red. And he said, yeah, you can kill a person with this. And I go, really? He goes, yeah, this is what you do, because I think he's done it. He said, yeah, you come in, if you come in, you knock the guy's on the ground. What you do, you get him, if he's on his face, on his belly, you just go where his back is and just right over his heart. And with his slap, he said, you'll burst the heart. Dead.
Wow.
I'm like, you've done this.
You're crazy.
Yeah, well, he used to run a union in the Philippines, which is like mafia.
Yeah.
But
That's
anyway, enough
insane.
about me.
That's really cool, though.
Yeah, it is. But so back to MMA. You were saying about MMA.
Yeah.
How you got into it?
So,
We
this
really
is
digressed. I'm sure okay, we're good.
so then, because my mom, she was always into it. I did a little bit of capoeira, then stayed away from martial arts for a long time. And when I was about almost 16 years old, I was looking for something to do because I just doing nothing. I was playing.
You weren't
video
doing
games.
jujitsu then?
No,
either?
not yet.
Oh, really? When did you start?
I was started
okay.
around that time when I was looking for something to do. Then I went online and I found a Muay Thai gym and I found a Jiu-Jitsu gym. So I was like, you know what? Let me go check out both, right? Let me see whichever one I like better, and then I'll stick with that. So then my first option was the Muay Thai because I wanted to learn how to kickbox. So then I showed up at the address that they provided online, but then it turns out that the gym had moved and they never updated the
Their
information.
yeah.
So then I'm just sitting there and I'm like, well, I guess we'll go try out jiu-jitsu. So then I showed up to the jiu-jitsu class and I still remember there was this guy named Will. He was sitting in the front, big, like, man, I kid you not, he was like at least like 350, big guy, just like in the front. And I said, hey, you mind? I'm like not even 16 years old at this point. I'm like, I want to sign up for jiu-jitsu. And then he goes, oh, no, you could take our trial class and stuff. I was like, no, sign me up. And then he's like, no, you should really do it. I was like, no, sign me up. And then he goes, well, how old are you? I said, 15. He goes, okay, you're going to need a parent to, like, sign this. And I was like, well, my mom's not here. Can I call her and give you the phone? He goes, sure. Which is, like, very dangerous, like, for them to,
and
like...
this is in Brazil.
No, this is in New York.
New York. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So then he speaks to her on the phone, and then he goes, okay, like, jump into the class. And I go into the class, and then they partnered me up with this guy named Walter. Right? Walter was late 50s, right? Small, scrawny, older guy. And keep in mind, at this point, like, I'm 15, I'm, young man. Testosterone is, like, pumping
Yeah, sure.
crazy. And Walter just absolutely manhandles me. And I just...
Did he outweigh you a lot, or was
No,
it just...
he was a lot smaller than me.
Oh, wow.
But the way he just, I had no grappling experience, nothing. And I'm just like...
That makes a difference.
Yeah, and then he was a brown belt at the time.
Oh.
And he just handled me, and I'm just like, I need to learn this.
That's cool.
Right? Because I'm very, very competitive. So when I got absolutely handled like that, I was like, I don't like this feeling. Like, I felt super helpless, and I'm just like, I need to learn this because I can't let this happen again. So then, fast forward almost 20 years later, and I'm still here.
Here you are, yeah.
And once I got to my late brown belt, right before I got my black belt, I guess it's not that I fell out of love with jiu-jitsu, but everything was kind of like repetitive to where every year was always the same thing. It was like, okay, get ready for Pan Ams, get ready for Worlds, rinse, wash, repeat every year. And this had been the same thing every single year, back to back to back to back to back. And then, I don't know, I just kind of just became like stagnant. I just wasn't
Stale.
enjoying it as much, So then I was like, you know what? I need something new. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. So then I did this one super fight one time for Submission Hunter, which Eric, he owns that. He also
Eric
owns
Garcia,
Fury.
yeah.
And then after I won my super fight, he goes, hey, we need to get you in the cage sometime soon. And once he planted that seed into my brain, the thought of that, like, kind of kept manifesting, and I don't know, I just couldn't let it go.
So, but you knew Drew at that
And
point.
I hadn't met him yet.
Okay.
And then not too long after that, that's when I met Drew.
Okay.
And I came over he invited me to come to ACS one day. So then I figured, I was like, I'll go drop in, train with them. So then I dropped in, trained, and I really enjoyed the way Drew coached, right, for the MMA. And the biggest thing for me was like he wasn't trying to turn me into like a kickboxer or anything like that. He knew that my primary strength was the grappling, right? I mean, I've dedicated almost my entire life to this. Like, why would you pull me away from that now, So then everything that he taught me and he would coach me through would always be to complement my grappling. And I appreciated that. And and I was like, you know what? Let's give this a shot, And now this coming fight next week is the 7th fight.
Your 7th?
My 7th fight.
Nice.
Yeah. And they all have been with Drew, part of the ACS team. And and that's kind of like how I got into it. And it's, don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, well, it's good. And it's kind of a neat evolution of what you're doing here. Do you have fighters here doing MMA?
I have a few guys. I have 2 right now, right? They just recently fought. And I have quite a bit of guys that are showing interest. I know because they see me like I'm the head of the gym, and they kind of lead by example. Like they see me go out there and put everything on the line, and I guess it inspires them to want to kind of pursue the same thing in a way.
That's pretty good. Now, is this your 7th pro fight, or is it?
This is my 7th fight overall. This is my 2nd pro
fight. Yeah, because I know I went to your first pro fight. I think I went to the last amateur fight. But I definitely remember, I have this great memory of you. It's in my mind, burned in my mind, because you have the guy up against the cage, and he's just squished like a frog, up there. And you had him here, and you were just starting low, and Drew's voice, you can hear Drew across the room, whether it's loud or not. And you're doing this, and you kind of looked up at Drew, like, am I doing this right? As you're just, and this guy's like, on the bottom. And I said, and the way you're looking at Drew, is this right? And Drew's like, yeah. Fine, they pulled you off him. But I thought, I got a little bit of that on film, I think. And because I snuck the camera in, and which, by the way, when you start becoming a spectator, don't feel like you're safe. They're like, okay, you got an knife on, okay, you're in. And then they're like, pat, pat, pat. It's not like TSA you're going.
Right.
They just get in. Yeah. But I just remember, I have a vivid memory of you having this guy just pinned up against the fence and landing lefts and looking over at Drew, just making sure you got, this is right? I think Ian was there too. I said, did you see that? And he says, what? I said, did you see how he's looking at Drew? And he was just planning that guy. And every time you land, the guy's, it's almost cartoonish. But so awesome. Anyway, so the fighting, you're 30, how old now again?
33.
33? Okay. Yeah. How many years fighting do you think you have left?
So my plan is by the time I'm 40, I'm done. I'm done competing with jiu-jitsu. I'm done competing MMA. I'm just going to strictly coach, But yeah, so I have a little under 7 years left.
What do you feel that age does to you?
I don't recover as well as I used to, right? Which is now I am a lot smarter about how I approach training. Whereas before, when I was younger, I could train 3-4 times a day hard, get up the next day, do it again.
And do it again, yeah.
No problem. Now, I still train 2-3 times a day, but let's say if I go to ACS in the morning, right, I'll have 1, maybe at most 2 hard rounds, and then the rest I'm kind of just moving. I just go through the motions. I'll give up position. I'll try to work out of them. It's kind of like active drilling. And then I'll do the same thing here at night. I'll do like maybe, since I already did like 2 hard rounds earlier, I'll do like 1 more hard round here. But then everything else is like active drilling, just constant movement, you know? But what has helped me a lot is taking my strength training a lot more serious, right? But being smart, but when I say taking it serious is not just going to the gym and deadlifting 500 pounds, because that doesn't do anything for me, right? So I've become real big lately on kettlebell training, right? And just really focusing on more of like movements, you know, staying mobile, but like staying strong, you know, because kettlebells, they require the like engagement from a lot of muscle groups whenever you're working out, which as an athlete, that's optimal. That's what you want,
right?
You know, you want to stay mobile, you want to stay strong, because as you start to age, those are the things that you start to lose. You start to lose strength and you start to lose mobility. You know, so by introducing that training that allows me to stay mobile, to stay strong, and then it's also very important, your fighting style also, you know. I have to be aware that I'm not 18. I'm not going to go into a fight looking to brawl every time. I'm older. My chin is not going to hold up as well as the 18-year-old would. You know what I mean? So I'm not looking to brawl every time. I'm looking for the safer routes, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
You know, I'm looking to control distance better. I'm looking to clinch up more. I'm looking to grapple and ground and pound. You know, I'm not going to stand in the center of the cage and go blow for blow with this person. Like, I'm not trying to prove anything.
Yeah.
You know.
What about diet? Does that change?
So, dieting for sure. I used to eat a lot of fast food before. I was
A lot of
younger.
fats?
Fast food.
Oh, fast food. Oh, yeah. Okay.
You know, so life was just so busy, and so fast food was always there. It's easy.
It's fast.
Yeah. But now that I've gotten old, one thing that I've gotten really into grilling. I actually just spent almost like $500 buying this like nice grill from
Like a
my
Blackstone
house.
grill?
Yeah, it was like real nice.
Yeah.
Cause I try to eat. I focus on meats, fruits, and vegetables.
Okay.
You know, so like anytime, like for example, a typical dinner, you know, I'll have like some chicken thighs that I grilled outside, and now I have my serving of vegetables and maybe like a little bit of rice.
Yeah, and I know you and I talked about food before, because like when we were in Italy, Sardinia, even though it looks like the same, it's not the same.
No.
It's what's not in there.
Yeah.
And I could feel the minute my wife and I came back and we started eating American stuff, I'm like, yeah, you can feel it. It makes you feel kind of thicker or something.
Yeah, huge difference.
Yeah.
Huge difference. Which is one of the things that like makes me a little excited about with Kennedy now that he's part of the health.
Oh, RFK, yeah.
Yeah. Because he's big into like all these
Food
things that
processing,
are into
yeah.
the food, you know, and they plan on changing that, and I think that's great. You know?
Yep,
'Cause
I do
people
too.
will be surprised at how many health issues can simply be avoided with a good diet.
The right food.
And here's the thing, it's not, you don't even want to look at it as a diet, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know? It's like I tell my students all the time, because I have students that like, coach, like, what do I need to do to lose weight? Like, what's my diet? What my diet should be? And I'm like, you know, don't eat like a kid.
Yeah, right.
You know, like, dude, like you're a grown man or a grown woman.
Your body
like,
changes.
Instead of focusing on a diet, you should focus on like the lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because diets, they only last like for a little time. But when you change your lifestyle to where you're like, no, I don't eat this, I don't eat that. Like I stick to this. Like this is what I eat. This is where my body feels its best.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you're able to keep that discipline, like it's really not hard. Because even during fight camp, I don't change what I eat. I just tone down a little bit on the portions, but I eat the same thing that I eat when I'm not in fight camp.
Yeah, although I will say people who are doing MMA like yourself are people who are self-disciplined enough to do that. It is an easy transition.
Yeah.
Most people, especially in our culture, it's almost like it's not even aware of it.
Yeah.
And that's because I got into fasting for a while and still do. And I can feel the minute I come out of a fast, because I'll go for like 2 or 3 days, no food, no water. And
why no water?
Because you don't stop urinating. When you don't drink, you don't stop. But if, like for example, the longest fast I've done, it's called dry fasting, is 5 days. No food, no water. And you continue to pee. So your body's still getting, what your body does, it goes after anywhere it can get water, which is usually fat. And if you have it in there, out it goes. But everyone thinks, oh, to go after muscle. It goes after fat. And I've done it a few times. And, but the water, you just, anything you put through your gastrointestinal thing starts activating all kinds of stuff in your stomach, which I'm trying to avoid. So you just basically kind of give your stomach a break in terms of energy. So surprisingly, you're not like lethargic. And after day 2, you're not even aware of being hungry. First day, that's the hardest, because you don't realize how much time you spend eating until you stop eating. And it's like, wow, normally I'd be here an hour eating. By the time I start and finish, it's an hour. And your body is not burning the energy to digest the food. And what that does in the process, it releases it. It's a whole process. It gets rid of a lot of these sentient cancerous cells that pharmaceuticals would rather you take a pill for. And as soon as I kind of got aware of that, I said, wait a minute. They want me to buy their pill to do this that my body can do by itself.
Right.
And that's kind of what got me started. And when I didn't really do it to lose weight. I just did it to cleanse my system pretty much. Right. And so I do it a couple of times a year and just how it goes. And sometimes it's a day, sometimes it's 2 days. Usually on Lent, I do it. Our church will have a Lent, and we're going to give up for Lent. And it was so thick that you could barely see it. I mean, from like me to you is about how big the bowl is. I could barely see it through the smoke. And I remember catching this fish. It was like this big. He pulled it up again. He was like, look at this. Good fish is like,
He's coming back in the water.
but yeah. Anyway, I'm going to end it here. That's all right. This was fun. I hope we can do this again in the future.
For sure.
Things change, and I'm getting better at my editing. I'm learning. I'm pretty good on programming and computers, but editing, it's marketing, and it's algorithms and all that stuff. So
Definitely.
I'll stick you up there and hopefully get some hits. And
Oh yeah, for sure.
your brand.
Yeah, I enjoy doing these things.
Yeah, that was fun, man.
Thank you.
That was great.
Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, that's it. When you get older, it takes a little longer to stand up.
Oh yeah. Next time I'll bring a chair.